Thanks everyone so much for joining today. I hope everyone's staying safe and staying healthy. Super excited to be joined by the ioCash team today. They're gonna show you all of their amazing functionality and APIs, the on and off rails for your fiat currency onto the blockchain, and then some super interesting capabilities around swaps and around notaries as well. Just a few quick pieces of admin for me, and then I'm going to turn it over to Carlos, Fernando, and Kike. Kaleido, we are enterprise blockchain as a service, so we have best of breed enterprise Ethereum and Corda protocols. We're also a full stack digital transformation platform, so we have a lot of answers around data, around privacy, around integrations to back office systems and REST APIs. And now adding ioCash is another example of how to complete that circle and really have all of the assets and all of the core pieces of functionality that you need to really build out a proper bona fide full stack solution. The last thing I'll just mention real quickly, we do have standard software as a service pricing models, pay as you go, but for certain proofs of concepts, pilots, or entry-level production projects, happy to work with your company on bespoke packages to give you the right level and access of resources that you need, no matter what stage of the journey that you're on. Last two pieces of admin for me, they're going to show you some functionality with Truffle and with MetaMask. Kaleido should go without saying, but we support both of those frameworks, have some pretty robust documentation and Truffle boxes, and then MetaMask is pretty much as trivial as creating a custom RPC endpoint and pointing it at your Kaleido node with some security credentials in line. Last thing I'll mention, this is being recorded. We record all of the Tech Tuesday and Walkthrough Wednesday demos. They're available on our YouTube page. Just search Kaleido Blockchain. And there are some particularly interesting ones from past weeks, including our private stack functionality as well, which will allow you to run your own enterprise Ethereum or Corda node in a private cloud orchestration or in your on-premise data center as well. So without further ado, I want to give the majority of the hour to Carlos and team. So I'm going to stop sharing, turn it over. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A, or if you're really brave, you can raise your hand and ask the question out loud. So Carlos, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Nick. First of all, thank you for having us here today. We are very excited about our partnership with Kaleido. We've been using the tool so far for a couple of months, and it's been a really great experience. It's a perfect match, I think, for our product, ioCash. And I'm going to apologize because I'm having two screens here because for the demo setup, I have quite a bit of windows open. So I'm not going to be looking at the camera all the time. Okay, so I apologize in advance. And without further ado, I'm going to share the screen. Let me know if you are you seeing the screen with the presentation?
We see half Postman, half presentation.
Yeah, okay, that's
all right,
the
looks
one.
great.
Okay, perfect. So to give a very quick intro of what we are going to be seeing today, we are going to do a very small intro about us, about who ioBuilders is, what is ioCash, our product for regulated payments on chain. Then we are going to do a full flow demo. So we are going to go through the main functionalities that you will be using in ioCash. And finally, we are going to do a small wrap up at the end of the presentation. And obviously, then we will go to Q&A to try to solve all your doubts. Okay, so as for the intro, to present ourselves also, I'm Carlos Lopez, currently a product manager in ioBuilders and ioCash. My main experience has been in e-commerce and fintech, both in China and in Europe. And currently, well, I'm in charge like some good part of the products in ioBuilders. And also I'm going to be presenting ioCash, Fernando. If you can introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Fernando. I'm the CEO of ioBuilders. ioCash is part of the different products we have implemented. My background is mainly on the e-commerce, travel, ticketing, in the last 8 years in fintech with different e-money solutions and wealth management, and here to serve and to try to show you and showcase you ioCash.
Okay, so during the presentation, Fernando and I will be alternating a little bit, explain different parts. We decided that I will do the most part of the technical demo. I don't have a technical background, so it's also to show like the easiness of use of ioCash in general. So first of all, to give you a quick view of what ioBuilders is, we are a blockchain company, and we basically build fintech and enterprise solutions based on blockchain that help businesses and institutions succeed in their blockchain adoption. So our focus is we both create products and IPs, such as ioCash is one of our products. And on the other hand, we also offer professional technical services related to blockchain. We are focused only on enterprise and regulated blockchain solutions. And our core focus is on the financial industry and the use of tokenized money, mainly through ioCash. Okay, and just to give you a bit of background about ourselves, our team is reference in the enterprise blockchain Spain. Here in Spain, we have been involved, well, actually, we were part of the team that deployed the Alastrian and Lightchain networks. We are participants in the EEA and the Token Taxonomy Initiative. We have a lot of experience in Quorum and Hyperledger Besu. We are the co-creators with Adara of ERC 2020, which is the standard for the e-money token, which we will see later today in the presentation. And we have like partnerships with Adara, Pegasus, Kaleido, and the other reference projects in the enterprise blockchain space. We not only have technical expertise, but our team has also legal and business expertise, especially in the areas of fintech and capital markets. And we, because of institutional relationships, we also have access to some financial licenses, such as the electronic money license in Europe, and we also have a lot of relationships with the different institutions and regulators in the Spain space. Okay, this is our team. Some key figures in the advisory board and our management team are like really important figures in the enterprise blockchain space here in Spain, like Julia Faura, in the sense of the regulatory frameworks in blockchain. We have like Moises, Miguel Ruiz Gallardón, etc. So we basically are covered on all fields in blockchain, both the regulatory, technical, and business. So what is ioCash? ioCash is basically a fintech platform that allows businesses and institutions to create applications that operate with regulated digital payments in blockchain technology. So we basically provide regulated money on blockchain, and we allow our clients to interact with it and operate with it both through API and through blockchain. And our aim is to become a single, easy to use integration solution with which you can either integrate payments into your applications or create completely new applications based on electronic money. So the way it works, ioCash is basically connecting two worlds. On the one hand, we have the core banking systems. On the other hand, we have the blockchain networks. So basically, the client applications use ioCash as this layer that allows them to connect easily to the banking services, both through API and through blockchain. So here it's a very simple schema of like how your application interacts with ioCash in order to use all the different functionalities that we have. Either through API or most of the functionalities are also available to use directly interacting with blockchain and the smart contracts. Okay, and this part about the ERC 2020, which is the EM token standard, I'm gonna leave Fernando give a short introduction at this point.
It's important to highlight also that ioCash is able to work with its own license. So we own a European e-money license that allows us to tokenize fiat under any kind of European country. And on the other hand, we are able to offer the platform plugging into a given existing license. Given bank can tokenize everything with our platform. No? Having said that, so to really make the platform feasible and possible, we need programmer money. No? So in that sense, you can think about why it's RC20, why you are not using RC20 only. No? So when we arrived to the RC20 specification, we thought there was important pieces pending or missing when you want to really use capabilities and functionalities that you have on the real fiat and payment world. No? The first example is the holds, which is mainly what we have nowadays implemented in the RC20 is allowance. You are allowed for a given amount, but this amount that you are allowed is not blocked for usage. So what we have implemented is a hold where you can, as a person, or can lock an amount of money to be used by a given hold operator or person that is going to make something with this money. No? On the other hand, we have added clearable transfer, which is a way to, instead making an atomic transfer, to have a transfer request and off-chain to make any kind of validation regarding to compliance, AML, to make this transaction happen or cancel it. No? On the other hand, in the normal regulated world, you have compliance, you have limit checks, you have amount checks, you have velocity checks. We have implemented standard implementation under the RC 2020 that allows you to put either rules on chain or off chain. And also we have made a bridge, a more friendly API under the DLT part, on the blockchain part, that allows you to make funding orders or payout orders directly through blockchain. What does it mean? Mainly is you can request to fund a given account via a funding request, which you are referring to a given payment method that you have linked in our platform, or you can make also the same on the payout order where you can request a payout to a given payment method or banking account that you have outside. You can see all the information at the e-money standard, tokenstandard.org. And on this presentation, we will go deeper into the whole part because it's the base functionality of our escrow product. You can go on, Carlos.
Thank you. Okay, so in a nutshell, the advantages of using ioCash is that you will have the complete functionality in one single platform. In just one integration, you have like all the functionality you need for your payments, both in blockchain and in the traditional banking systems. You have flexible advanced payments. You basically have the ability to program your money, and we are also adding a lot of advanced payment tools such as automated payments, split payments, etc., that are in our roadmap. So our idea is that you will have like a very broad tool of functionalities to work with in your payments. We are obviously using blockchain technology. We are not only focused on blockchain technology, on blockchain projects. We also offer our services to normal projects that don't want to know anything about blockchain. But obviously, I guess the main advantage or the main kind of projects that will be interested in ioCash will be the ones that are actually interacting with blockchain, or they have blockchain expertise and they need payments working on their blockchain platforms. And finally, the easy integration. We are trying to make it as easy as possible to integrate our solution, both through the API as well as through the smart contracts. And we also have very easy and accessible documentation. And in general, it's easy to get started with ioCash and start using the payments in blockchain. Okay, and as for use cases, just to give you a general overview of what you could do with ioCash before we start the presentation. You could do like all kinds of fintech applications, like the one we are going to be using, a demo application very similar to Revolut, so like a mobile wallet for the user. You could be building that just using ioCash. You could be having, for crowdfunding, the hold and scroll functionalities are going to be very useful. You're going to be, you will be able to basically create wallets that collect the funds raised from the investors, and to set the conditions in the smart contract that makes it so that when it reaches the cap limit that you are putting for the project, the money gets sent to the fundraiser. If it doesn't reach there, it gets automatically returned to the investors, and you actually don't need to do anything there. For marketplaces, also the scroll functionality is very important. So you could have like payment for products that in which the payment is not liberated until the user gets the product at his house. For blockchain projects, obviously, I think payments is one of the main pain points for a lot of blockchain projects that want to implement some sort of payments, and currently they need to go to stable coins or other like unregulated forms of payment. For business flows, you can automate your business flows with ioCash, like I said, both with escrows, scheduled payments, and automated payments with conditions that you set up on blockchain. You could have use cases using escrow. So, for example, in the buy of a house, when the buyer needs to put a down payment to reserve the house, you could put that on an escrow and have the notary, which is the person or the bank, the person in charge of signing the final contract, be the one that is allowed to authorize the transfer of money to the receiver, to the seller, or back to the buyer. You could automate payments in IoT and machine-to-machine micropayments. Also, like one of the advantages of ioCash is that peer-to-peer payments is really cheap, like the price is really low. And finally, you could use the ioCash as a cash leg for settlement in the case of digital assets. So, for example, in markets where you are having like digital assets or other kinds of tokens, and you obviously need a cash token in order to do the atomic swap and the delivery versus settlement, you will have ioCash giving you that cash leg.
Complementing what Carlos is saying, so it's the settlement is usually the center of our interaction with the client. So people that want to issue bonds on blockchain or syndicate loans, carbon credits, whatever digital asset that is representing on the real life, could be also a car, real estate. As soon as you have this fiat regulated money, which is the usual representation of money that the final customer can use, you can really make your custom business flows and real delivery versus payment between digital asset and given fiat currency on a smooth and atomic way. No? It's more or less our center of our use cases usually.
Yep. Okay, and as Fernando was commenting before, we offer ioCash in two types of products. The usual one and the one that we are going to be seeing today is as a fintech as a platform that is operating already under an electronic money license. So you have the money on chain already being regulated. The other way is as a tech stack, I'll call it the DCTS, which is basically giving the financial institutions with their own license the ability to install the tech stack and be able to issue their regulated money on chain. Okay, so that's all for the introduction. Next up, we will be starting with the technical demo. Okay, so for the demo setup, we are going to be using our demo application, Orion. We are going to be using it in two different phones. We're going to have a phone taking the place of Alice and the other one taking the place of Bob. Okay, for our different use cases, we are going to be using MetaMask as well to interact directly with the blockchain. We are also going to be showing direct interactions with blockchain through Truffle, and finally, like a couple interactions through the API in Postman. So basically, the usual setup for clients applications is, in the case, obviously, that they have an end user application that is connected to their backend. Their backend connects directly to ioCash, and then the user application both connects to the backend and is also able to interact directly with the blockchain. Also, for today's demo, we're going to be using on one hand the Kaleido network, and on the other hand the LagChain consortium network to showcase also one of our latest additions to the functionalities, which is the cross-chain payments, cross-chain transfers. Okay, so what we are going to be seeing today is a complete flow, the basic flow of user from the user creation in the platform and the creation of the wallet, which in our case requires the verification of the phone. And once the user is created, we are going to be able to do a cash-in, which is to top up the account of the user from the banking systems. Usually for the cash-in options, we have either credit card, which is instant, and through SEPA, which is bank wire. We are not going to be showcasing the bank wire today because obviously it takes time and it wouldn't make too much sense, but we will be doing a cash-in with credit card. And then once the money is in the system and is tokenized, we will have different types of transfers that we will showcase. We have a centralized transfer through the API. We have also a decentralized transfer through the application. And we will also showcase the cross-chain transfers through the Truffle, and the escrows also through Truffle. And finally, we will have a cash out. So this means basically the money leaving our system and going, like making a wire transfer to an external bank account. Okay, so before we start, I think it's good to highlight one key point, which is that for getting information, your systems not only can go through the centralized way, which would be through the ioCash API, but they are also able to interact directly with the blockchain. So for part of the information, they are also able to extract it directly from blockchain in a decentralized way. And that is true for most of our functionalities.
It's important to highlight that usually the banking functionalities are linked to the API. As we shared before, you can do some decentralized options that start the request and then it's fulfilled off-chain and then committed on-chain, as could be the payment request or the fund request. but usually you can see the movements, the balances as usual on the blockchain part. You can initiate any transaction at the smart contract, and that you can also do it on the API, which is not usually the best case on the decentralized way. But some companies want to use the API instead of smart contracts. They have always the two chances in that part.
Okay. So we will start with showcasing the account creation. For this, so basically the environment that we are gonna have is we're gonna have some consoles up. We are gonna have screen sharing from our phones. Okay. Okay. So this is our Orion app. Okay, and then we, for some reason, I'm hearing my voice like in echo. I don't know if someone has the mic open or something. Okay, never mind. So we are gonna have on one side, we are gonna have the application, and on the other side, we are gonna have a MetaMask account, which we have already configured. We have on one side Alice, which has an account both in Kaleido as well as Blockchain. And then we have Bob, which actually has already created his DLT address, but has not been added as a user in the system. So this is what we are gonna do now. We are gonna do the account creation for Bob, which is a user that already had an existing DLT address and private key. Okay. So in this case, well, obviously here in our application, if you didn't have the Ethereum address, you will be able to create it in the app directly. Otherwise, you will be able here to import. So you will be able to create a new wallet for the user. Okay. Here.
You have seen, we have set up a PIN, which will be requested for the transaction as the normal banking world. And then there was a menu where we can showcase, you can sign up with your user name, but we have also some self-sovereign identity integration with it's K-Trust. We have been working also with UPAR. So you could import your identity also into Urion, no? Either by exporting the private key as Carlos did, or either as linking your key from the UPOR part or whatever self-sovereign identity part.
Yeah, and also what is important to notice, and is very cool, is that when the user accepts the terms, these ones are hashed and also stored in the blockchain with the transaction signed by his private key, so as to give proof that it was the user that accepted the terms. Okay, so after the user is created, we have a phone confirmation. And actually, we are requesting, in this case, in Orion, we are requesting the one-time password through blockchain instead of the API.
So there's a given smart contract which is invoked, and our off-chain solution is listening to the request to send the one-time password. And as usually banking onboarding, you need to verify your phone because apart from your identity.
Yeah, it seems it's been a bit slow, the phone verification. Let me see. Yeah, okay. So I didn't have the notifications turned on. Okay, so the same goes for the validation. We are sending the validation through blockchain instead of the API, even though you have the option to do it through the API.
So we are automatically generating an international bank account number at the same level as the account is created, which is also a singularity of ioCash. So you have linked international bank account number to your Ethereum address, and you can send your money to the international bank account number, and will be the money will automatically be tokenized on that Ethereum address for the given amount of euros that you have sent.
Yeah, so to give a very fast recap of what happened here is first we made a request to create the user through the post user API. We passed the DLT address. We also passed the DLT network that we wanted to create the account in. And then we requested the OTP, the one-time password for verifying the phone, which actually, as I said, it can be done through the API, but in our case, we were communicating directly through blockchain. And then after the OTP password was sent to the phone, we also confirmed the code, which can again be confirmed through the API or through blockchain. In our case, we did everything through the blockchain so as to leave trace of what happened on blockchain.
It's important to highlight that, as you were saying, we at ioCash, we are not storing the private key of the users. So it's up to the use case where it's stored. So if you are in a use case, you want to generate the keys for your customers and store it on the HSM or whatever solution you want, you can do it there. If you wanted to do it as much decentralized as we have done it at the demo app, where the key is generated under the safe enclave of the mobile phone, it's also feasible. It's important to highlight also when we reach this regulated world, we as a bank, as an e-money license, we are making the KYC. Now we are doing the smallest limit, which is the SMS. So you can make up to 1,500 euros movements in a given range of time. But we have biometrics and ID validations also that allows you to move more amount of money. And that, what does it mean? So as soon as we have KYC the people, if you lose your private key, if you lose your mobile phone, we are able to restore your amount under a new private key if we validate that you are the person who's owning the account. And we are able to restore it on the new phone under the new private key, which is a total difference on the normal Ethereum world due to the fact there's a regulation. So you cannot afford as a bank or as a regulated company that somebody lose their access to the bank account and they cannot get back their money. No? That's more or less a quite important difference.
Yeah, so as for the next step, so I just switched to Bob account here, which is actually my account. And I think what is really cool to highlight is that we have here our Orion application. And here, as I said, we have the MetaMask with the tokens for Orion here. So we can see the balance that is the same in both. And just to show you before we continue on, I also have a wallet in Blockchain, the other network, which has currently €3. So just to verify this in here, also we can go to Blockchain, and here we have the €3 that we have for the token in Blockchain.
Just to answer some questions that are raised on the Q&A. So towards the credit card limits that was asked by Patricio. So depending on the amount of identification you have, so you can identify yourself under the upper limit, you can move the amount of money you want. So there's not any limit on the credit card and SEPA transfers you do. Of course, as you are on any Revolut application and number 26 or Venmo, you will need to identify yourself depending on the amount of money you need. So there's not any limit. The limits are associated to the regulation. In the other hand, Moses was asking, and hopefully I can answer very well that part, is that which is the kind of security, because there's a lot of moving parts. So mainly our platform is based on a bunch of set of smart contracts, which is around 25 smart contracts different with hierarchy and different deployments. And also we have our different backend and call it microservices that are deployed on their hosting, which is audited security on the ISO. We have different audits every year, and everything is connected to the banking system in that way. It's quite secure, reliable. We have different audits, certifications, and it's a normal backend as a normal bank. So there's different things we need to follow and pass to keep on the license beyond the pass of the regulation. That's more or less our platform, simplified. No? So the amount of security you need to, as on the banks, you need to store the private keys that you own as a bank on a given HSM, given sealed storages, etc. But that's more or less what I can say on that part.
Okay. So to continue with the next step in the demo, which is like how to get the cash onto the blockchain. Like I said, you have both the wire bank wire option, which we are not going to showcase because of the time that it takes, and the credit card option. So I'm going to be topping up my account. Okay. With, let's say, €10. I'm gonna do this just for 1 second out of the screen, out of the discretion. It will take just 1 second.
Meanwhile, I will answer another online question. So
Yeah.
geographic restrictions about what we are doing. So we have two models, as we said before. The first one is based on a European e-money license. So that means we can only offer these services to European members. So we, in first instance, we need to passport our Spanish license from our Spanish central bank to different countries in the European Union, as we are already doing with Luxembourg and Germany, to work with companies and on these countries. And we can also work with that. Having said that, we are expanding our services to make partnership with other jurisdictions. It could be Mexico, US, whatever, and this is our first priorities, US and Latin America. But we are very open to explore use cases, see the benefits and the needs, and see which is the efforts to be done to integrate new licenses under our umbrella. On the second part, as we mentioned, you can use our tech stack without the license. So we have all the compliance, all the monitoring tools, our back office, and you put the license and the regulation, and we put the expertise in the technological part and also the legal part and compliance to make it happen. No? That's more or less what I can say in that part.
Okay, so we have put in all the information about the credit card to load up €1 on the account. Click on confirm. It asks me for the PIN as with every other transaction, and it's loading. Okay, so we have operation successful, and I don't know if you were quick enough to notice that my balance in the blockchain automatically changed here in the application as well. And now we see in the movements also the card cashing that we perform with the Visa card.
It's important for GDPR assumptions that you can see all the movements of blockchain, but you will know which is the kind of cashing that was done or cash out. You will see minting or burning. This is why on the API we have detailed movements where you can have which was the person to give you this transfer, if you have it identified, which was the origin IBAN account, which sent you the funds, or whatever. No? It's quite distinguished because the GDPR is quite important also on the blockchain space. And answering to another question, to make it interactive, there was a question about if we were the admins of the tokens. Of course, we are the owners, and we are able with our private key and administrative key to move the funds of a person as a normal bank. So a normal bank can go to your electronic accounting to the database and move you from 1 million to 2 million if they are off to. No? So it's the same that part, but with all security to have everything audited, have it on the logs, and only allow these operations when it's really needed. So I hope you said that answered your question.
Yeah, and I think this is probably one of the key differences with unregulated stable coins, for example, in which you don't really have this kind of entity that can be responsible of the money. Okay, so to go on with the demo, now we have the money inside the account. It's on blockchain. It has been minted to the account. And the next step that we are gonna showcase is just a normal transfer. Okay, so basically first, so obviously for the transfer, you can either order it directly in a decentralized way through the blockchain, or you can order it through the API. And in the first case is what we are gonna do. In this case, we are gonna showcase it from the application. And then we will do an API showcase as well. So just to point out, in the creation of Bob's account, for some reason we have a small bug in the demo application, and we couldn't select the Kaleido network instead of the blockchain network. So for the rest of the demo, we are gonna use our backup account, which is Kike, which is here. Actually, he's listening as well for doing the different transfers. Okay, so I'm gonna put Kike's account here today in Kaleido, which, as you can see, has 11.56 euros. And what I'm gonna do through my Orion application is that I'm gonna send him an Orion transfer through the DLT. So I have ready here his QR. This is the DLT address of Kike. As you see, it ends on 7AA. I'm gonna select how much to send him, which is gonna be very little money, 0.1. Then again, I need to confirm with my PIN, and let's see. So as you can see, the balance in his account automatically changed to 11.66. If I go back to my wallet, my balance has been also reduced 10 cents from the transfer. And this is the decentralized way to do it. And now we are gonna do as well with some Postman we already have here prepared. So basically the API to order a transfer is pretty simple. So you just call the API endpoint with the wallet ID in the ioCash system, because in this case it's the decentralized ID, sorry. And in the body, you just pass it the amount and the target wallet ID in ioCash. Okay, I'm gonna open this as well. Let's see if I can have it all open. So when I click send for 0.1 euro, let's say the balance changes.
It's important to highlight that the API it's totally ciphered on a asymmetric key with RSA. And so you have any single client, not the user. The client, the use cases have his own key to invoke the API and have all the rights to do the transfer that they need in the behalf of the customers. No? So we usually make audits about how the applications and developments are done by the different integrations. And now Carlos is showcasing this part.
Yeah, in this case, the centralized API can be slightly slower in the case that the balance here, we are getting it directly from the blockchain. So it can be a little bit slower, like you saw it took like a couple more seconds to actualize the balances, both in MetaMask and in the application. Okay, so that was a normal transfer. But what about cross-chain transfer? So if we have a user in blockchain A and a user in blockchain B. So this is a functionality that we have added recently, and currently is available in a decentralized way, and we are going to show it today here through the Truffle console.
So it's important to highlight too that we are working now in the use case, and usually we deploy the same scenarios with Hyperledger Besu, which is from today called Consensus, is part of the Consensus Quorum mix and fusion acquisition. But usually we work with IBFT2 with block time 1 second. That's more or less make faster transactions. In the use case you are saying, we're working always with private networks or public permissioned consortiums like blockchain or our own private implementations.
Yeah, so for this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send money from my account in the Kaleido network to my account in the blockchain network. Okay, so it will be sending money to myself. I'm Alice in this case. Okay, so right now in blockchain, I have 3 euros. In Kaleido, I have 28 euros. And here we have already the variables prepared. So usually to do so, you need to set up an operation ID, and a new operation ID, set up the amount that you want to send. We are using 2 decimals. That's why you see here 100. The DLT address that you want to send it to, and the chain ID where the DLT address is. Correct.
In that case, to highlight what is going underwards, we will see it afterwards, but it's important. We are working, we have a smart contract deployed on the given networks, which is making the bridge between the different tokens to make a cross-layer transfer with hash time locks. No? We inspired a little bit with the Kaleido hash time locks and with other ones that we have, you can see on different projects, like Mosaic DAO. And finally, we use the normal construction of Bitcoin of hash time locks, where you can really assure the order you want to assure, and also you can define different safe timing for the transfer. No?
Yeah, so what Fer is describing is basically this process with the hash time locks, in which we first lock the money in the sender's account, we mint and hold in the receiver blockchain, and then in the end, basically we liberate the tokens from the sender account to the smart contract, the cross-layer link contract in the sender blockchain, and we send in the receiving end, we send from the cross-link smart contract to the receiver. Okay, so I'm gonna set it up again. My account in Kaleido, my account in Blockchain. I initiated here truffle. We are creating the variables, as I mentioned before. And now what we're using is an order transfer. Okay. Since it is correct. And let's see, because sometimes it takes a little bit to update. Okay, so in my in the Kaleido network it's already updated, and here in MetaMask sometimes it's a bit slower. So I can see already in the application that I have the €4 here in MetaMask. It hasn't updated yet.
Meanwhile, I will try to answer a question that I raised on the Q&A.
There you go. Okay,
so
the
€4 yet. So it was faster than me. So the question is, I have a couple of questions. I'll start with this one. Companies providing services to the customer may opt to pay for the customer service themselves and charge later to the clients. Of course, it's the model you want to implement. So you can use your, call it, core wallet or use case wallet to pay the things for the customers and their charge on that part. It's important to highlight, maybe it's confusing and maybe it's important to clarify. In our case, we can work on any network, could be on the mainnet, could be on the private part. We usually work with private networks that don't have gas, so it's free of gas. But we can also go for economic models where you can charge for the gas, and this gas is the way you charge the customers in euros. So it's up to you which kind of tokenomics you want to implement in that part in your use case. If you use a pay per service part, we can configure the amount of API calls. We can configure a given fee per transactions to be paid by your customers. So it's quite flexible. It's depending on the use cases. So hopefully, Antonio, that helps. And Patricio raised another. Is it possible to cash out in DAI on the mainnet? Not by now. So we're not working too close with the scenarios with stablecoins like DAI or Tether or whatever. But it's something that we can really look at it if we can follow the guidelines of the AML and KYC for the scenario. It's important to highlight that we cannot cash out any money to any person who hasn't been whitelisted on our platform. No? So it means when you make a transfer, we ensure that the receiver is already an ioCash user. That's important. It's a closed loop implementation as any e-money license implementation.
So basically, we need to have identification data from the user, and depending on the amount of this data, the user is able to transact with different quantities of money. So this is to comply with the AML regulations.
Yeah, and Antonio also asks about multi-party payments. At the escrow level, you can see it. We have some complex implementation that we not showcase here, but you can make multi-party payments without any problem, triggering payments based on different payers and payees. So it's something that we can implement. So maybe it's a matter of going deeper in the mindset or the things that you have in mind but we have already some implementations about multi-party payments. I think you can go on, Carlos.
Yeah, so the next point that we are gonna showcase is gonna be the holds and escrows, which I think is probably the functionality that opens the most possibilities for use cases. So when we talk about holds and escrows, is basically we have the functionality to lock part of the tokens, part of the balance in the sender's wallet, and to this point a third-party address to be able to sign or approve the transaction for the tokens that were locked. Okay, so basically what we are doing is putting it on escrow, on an escrow account, but we don't need a third-party account. The sender has the tokens in its own wallet, but the third party is able to function as an escrow, basically.
That's more or less what we said at the beginning, no? So usually in the RC20 you have the allowance. You can allow a given person to spend the amount of money, but it doesn't assure you that when you want to spend it, the money is there. No? That's the difference with the hold. So the holdable implementation, which is part of the RC20, and explained on the next slide, which is the 1996, is an interface where you can implement your hold structure, and it's quite easy to implement. You have an operation ID that we are using in the previous slides to really make a correlation ID of the normal normal off-chain things you do. You define which is the one who's going to be the receiver and which is the notary, which is mainly who is going to validate that the payment can be made. No? Over this holdable implementation, you can make your escrow logic. This escrow logic can be a bunch of different triggers. For example, as when you transfer a car between two persons, you need to first of all sign a private contract between the two persons. Secondary, you need to pass all the paperwork. You need to go to the traffic part and transfer the ownership. You need to pay your taxes. And then as soon as you have everything done and then the car is under your name, you can transfer the money from A to B. There's different triggers that you can configure on a given smart contract. And you can make like a centralized oracle to trigger this part or to certify that everything has been done. This is an example for escrow, for example.
Yeah, so you basically can point a smart contract to be the notary for the transaction, and you can implement all the complex logic that you want in the notary. So like I was saying, this operation takes place in two steps, obviously. First, to create the hold and appoint the notary. And the second transaction will be from the notary to either approve the transaction or cancel the transaction and roll it back to the user, which will liberate the coins and make them available for the user again. For approving the transaction, we also have extended the functionality so as to the notary can approve partial transfers of this amount. So it could be that it approves from the 100 euros that we have set up in the hold. It approves 10 euros to go through, but leaves the other 90 for now. And so it can be liberated through time in different transactions. Okay, so for showcasing this, what we are gonna do, I'm going back to Kaleido, ioCash. Here my account in Kaleido. So I'm gonna create a hold to send the money to Kike in Kaleido. Okay. So for this first part, which is this one, we are creating the hold. So basically here we need to pass it an unique operation ID, which I'm gonna call 5. We need to pass the receiver DLT address, which is Kike's DLT address. We need to pass it the notary, which is an account that we created here. The notary in this case doesn't need to be whitelisted in ioCash because he doesn't actually have money or anything. The money doesn't go through the notary. He only approves the transaction. We set up the value that we want to send, in this case, €1, and the time to expiration. This is a time that you can set up so as if the scroll hasn't been liberated when this time arrives, then it's automatically rolled back and being made available for the sender again. Okay, so start. Create the variables. Okay. And then we use it calling the function hold. Okay, and when I execute this, what we are gonna see, because this first step is the hold, so we are gonna see my balance change, but we are not going to see Kike's balance change because the money will be held in my account, but it would have not reached Kike's account yet until the notary signs the transaction.
As you're saying, you are seeing a time up to expiration parameter, which you can also set to unlimited, so it doesn't expire. Or if you want to expire, you can restart expiration. So we have thought in different use cases about this hold / scroll extended functionality.
Okay. So you can see my balance change, this €1 because it's not available for me anymore. It's held in my wallet, but it's not currently available for me. Okay, and the balance in Kike's side is still the same. And now what we are gonna do is we are gonna approve this transaction with the notary. We want to make sure that the operation ID coincides with the one that was created before. Okay, and then I'm gonna order the execute hold, which means approve this hold and transfer. And I'm not gonna see any change in my balance because my available balance is not going to change because the money that is gonna be transferred is from my held balance, which is not shown here. But I'm gonna see the balance in Kike's account change on €1 when he receives the euro. Okay, so yeah, the euro is here in Kike's account. In my account, there is no change. Now, if I refresh the movements, I should have a transfer movement as well. So we have here the detail for the lock, and now we have the transfer out, actually. Okay, so that was the escrows. And as a final step in our demo, we have the cash out finally. So we want to send the money that we have in blockchain to an external bank account. So for this, we are gonna do it through the app and through the API. I'm gonna put here my own account, okay, which is this one. And this. Okay. So basically from the application, I just select the bank transfer. And I'm gonna complete the the numbers. Again, I'm taking this for a second out of the screen. Complete the details.
So there was a mention before about Moses about there's a lot of moving parts. Really, the idea of the demo was to showcase in a more functional way than in a technical. We are going technical on that part, but everything is based on mainly on the baseline of the RC 2020. We are trying to push forward a little bit this RC 2020 with more things that we have already developed or are ongoing, like the cross-layer transfer that we said before. We're also working on overdraftable tokens. That means you can give credit lines and your balance, perhaps it's zero, virtually it could be more money because you can spend on a credit line. We have also due dates on the transfer for international transfers. So there's a lot of stuff ongoing there, and everything is public or will be public. So if anyone has any questions about the smart contracts, about the standards, about things that they want to be curious about, you can ask it. And also our Oriona demo is already it's public. You can use it. You can sign up on the ioCash webpage, and you can do whatever we have done here personally on the app.
Yeah, so as this last step, I'm gonna confirm the cash out. We're gonna see my balance change over here. So when it will be €1 less. Again, we have to confirm everything in the application. Okay, has completed, and you see my balance change over here. It also changed here, and we have the movement over here. And the way to do it through the API, which we have also prepared, is again a very simple endpoint. So basically, you go with the wallet ID in ioCash to the cash outs endpoint, and you pass the amount that you want to cash out and the account number to which you want to cash out to. You can also add the concept, but it's not mandatory. So I'm gonna do this second cash out through the API, and we'll see your balance change here in the application.
So I will answer some questions meanwhile from Antonio, who has done very good questions. So the notary is not really the same as in Corda. So Corda, you have a notary, which is the same as the validator in the IBFT. It's a consensus concept. In our case, it's a notary as a normal notary that you have in the normal world. No, it's somebody that validates. It's the concept that we are using for a payment notary, who is going to validate the transaction of the payment, not of the consensus part of the network. No? That is what we are using for the notary. It's somebody that accepts or not that the payment can go through. Could be like a cashier that lets you pay or not, based on if how do you look like, what are you paying or whatever. No. The receiver, if he can see he has a payment on hold. Nowadays, we don't have that implemented in the app, but you can do it. How you can do it? You, first of all, as you know, on the Ethereum blockchain, you can listen to events. So the token is, you have the address, you can listen to standard events. And as soon as you have a hold request, you can see if you are a receiver, and you can send events. On the other hand, we are working to have on the last part of this year our event API, where you can receive the events, whatever is happening, and you can send push notifications or whatever you want to your customers to really notify them. So it's a matter of UI. So we are offering that on a decentralized way for granted on Ethereum. And also we are offering that on the centralized way on our subscription API and event API. As we said, who's triggering the authorization of the payment, it's triggered by the notary, a part of our EML, but it's triggered by the concept of the notary we said before. And I think that's almost that.
Yeah. So like we saw before, like after the cash out through the API, I can also see the balance here updated. I can also see it in MetaMask here, the 24 euros left in my account. And that's basically the end of the money cycle inside ioCash. So we did the cash in to tokenize the money. We did several types of transfers, which allows for different use cases. And finally, we did cash out out of ioCash and into the traditional banking system. So now, just as a small wrap up, we already went a little bit through the applicable use cases. As for functionalities that we have currently available and the ones that we will be working on, we have, like you saw, like wallets with IBAN number, working on blockchain. We have advanced ID verification that you can use on demand. This basically prompts a link for a video in which the user can show his ID and is automatically match up like his face with the photo in the ID to verify the ID like really fast. We also have the phone verification, which is also like apart from what you saw on the OTP, we also have it as an on-demand service. We had the credit card casing, which was showcased here, the SEPA casing through the bank wire, different kinds of peer-to-peer transfers, decentralized transfers, the cross-chain transfers that we also saw here today, the bank wires to the external banking system. And then we also, these ones we didn't have time to showcase today, but we basically have functionality to program payments, to program recurrent payouts, and to do automated payments. And finally, we have the escrow payments and escrow accounts that we showcased here today. Obviously, a lot of features working on the background for AML and compliance. We have also like really easy to use API, the friendly documentation. We have tech support. We also offer like key management. We have key management services, and I'm not gonna go through the whole list because those are the basic ones. And what to expect from 2020 is PSD2 support, which will change a little bit the way of how transfers work for the business to consumer, but not for the business to business, which is our main focus in our applications. We'll have webhooks. We have escrows created by the API and cross-layer transfers by API, which we didn't showcase today because it's on the roadmap. And more complex automated payments, multi-owner accounts, and possibly in the end of the year, multi-currency accounts and FX. So, Fer, maybe you are the most proper person to talk about why Kaleido is such a great platform to work with.
So, well, before going to that part, which is quite important, just answering Antonio, we need to think about the whole implementation as the normal lock that you get, for example, when you arrive to a hotel. No? They give you, they ask you for the debit card, credit card, and they lock you amount of money as a way to assure that you're going to stay and you're not going to break anything. It's like a way to a deposit. No, it's more or less the whole concept goes in that direction. Having said that, let's go to the important part. So why ioCash and Kaleido have signed this partnership? Why ioCash fits to Kaleido? No? First of all, as you see, Kaleido is one of the most important companies at the enterprise space as a blockchain service provider. It's not only a network management tool, it gives you a whole ecosystem of tools. Of course, as ioCash, being a plugin or an easy plugin into the platform, give us a way to work with already existing customers of Kaleido and new ones. It's cross-marketing stuff that's quite important for both parts to extend our relationships. But why we selected Kaleido? So they're enterprise grade. They have an amazing blockchain expertise. We have been working with most of the team members on the EA, working in different groups about cryptography, about network management, Coro, Bezu. So they have a lot of knowledge. Now Corda. They're working with corporate institutional clients as we are working on, because we are working on regulated money, and this is usually the kind of clients apart from startup. They give an amazing support. It's important as soon as you reach production, you give SLAs. So Kaleido have this functionality. You can request adopt functionalities and services. It's also important the amount of community which is behind working there and helping the Ethereum community to go forward. No? That's more or less important why we are working with Kaleido, why we selected Kaleido for one part of our use cases.
Yeah, and to mention like the two ways of using ioCash on Kaleido. Basically, for using ioCash on your Kaleido network, we'll need to deploy a node there, as well as our smart contracts to be able to operate ioCash in your network. Or the other option is to use ioCash as a service using our current Kaleido network, which is probably the less used option, I think. And I think that's about it. For more information, we are available at product at ioBuilders, or you can also contact sales at Kaleido for requesting more info. You also have the links to the ioCash website, as well as the developers portal, where you have a lot of different information, and you can see more about how the platform works. We have like some step-by-step guides and the API catalog. So I think that's about it. I think we took a little bit more time than was planned, but hopefully that was helpful for everyone. And giving the mic back to you, Nick.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks, Fernando. That was really enlightening and really helpful. I threw a few additional email addresses into the chat for folks to reach out to Kaleido. Anything technical, anything commercial, we can tackle all those topics. Please don't hesitate to reach out to the ioCash folks as well to talk more about their APIs, their solution, and how that could even plug into your existing tech stack. Yeah, like I said, big thanks to these two. That was really, really thorough and well thought out presentation. Very edifying to me, so hopefully it was to the audience as well. Just want to thank everyone for attending again. Hope everyone is staying safe. I know times are very interesting these days in a lot of different capacities, but genuinely extend that. And please stay tuned for more Tech Tuesdays and Walkthrough Wednesdays. We're just like the ioCash team, we're continuing to add more and more feature sets and functionality into the platform. So we have some really exciting stuff coming up on our roadmap as well. So yep, thanks again, Carlos, Fernando, great content. Thanks for all the great questions, Antonio and Patricio. And yeah, really enjoyed it.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much,
Nick.
Nick. It was our pleasure too.
Have a great day, everyone.